Robert Gorter, MD, PhD, medical doctor and clinical professor at 6 universities with several specializations in 3 continents, in conversation with Manfred van Doorn, leadership trainer, top executive coach, clinical psychologist and psychotherapist, on the subject of the double.
Well, hello Manfred.
Hello.
It's nice to sit also with you here at the table. And we're just thinking, we know each other for now at least 45 years. And I'm actually very pleased. I have only good memories of our discussion. Sometimes for a year we wouldn't meet or so. But what I really have always appreciated, we have a common background, that is anthroposophy and the work and the concepts of Rudolf Steiner. But that we could really have often a good dialogue, a good discussion about topics, and I had to sell some more ideas and you different ideas, and we usually came together to a better understanding and a concept of things we discussed. So I'm very happy we do that now again, and I'm very pleased. I think also your work is great. I know many people you could help also as a clinical psychologist, but maybe you should also tell a little bit what you have done in your work, and that's why we're sitting here.
Okay. Yeah, I started with you as a clinical psychologist. I got to know you when I was doing work as a journalist, and we had a first interview, and I thought, wow, that guy is open and awake. And so I decided to try and do my practice with you, and I stayed and did a lot of work as a psychotherapist. And when you left to America. I worked there for many more years on the practice, but then I decided to shift my work towards leadership development.
Yeah.
So I did about 20 years as a psychotherapist and 20 years as a leadership trainer. And my mission in life is to present a map of the human soul. I love the work of Rudolf Steiner, but also the work of Joseph Campbell. And I love this overview of the possible archetypal experiences that humans can have. And we have a model called double helix. And it's about a circle model that is based on the cycle of the year and on the archetypes of the zodiac. And we want to show that this circle is always coming back on higher levels. So we try to show with movie clips how human development can take you to higher levels.
Yeah. So you could say that maybe a circle becomes a spiral upwards.
Yeah.
Although maybe also a spiral can go downwards.
Exactly.
That's also maybe part of our discussion.
Yeah.
But there's always movement, and that's also important. So actually things are never static. There's always, you will talk about that more, but there's always a movement in progress, movement. Yeah,
exactly.
So and so I left for the United States, so we had less contact. But now the last 20 years we're meeting regularly, and I'm always also thankful for you what you bring in and so. And so the focus will be today, and then I want you, especially you, to talk about it, and I might have some questions, but about what is evil, or what is the shadow of somebody, what is, and that is never always the same. So what I like of your concept, and you will now talk about that, is that there's actually nothing in development which you can see static or absolute. There's always a process. And you have days you do better and days you do worse, but there is a process in the individual and also for mankind as such. And that's all I'm grateful to Rudolf Steiner, that both, therefore. So we had Professor Lievergoed, who also had a strong effect on you, on your thinking and ideas, also for me, but more still for you, and this 12-fold. So please, start, and I will sure have questions, but you now have the floor, so to speak.
Thank you. Well, talking about Lievergoed and talking about Steiner, I think for me the most important aspect on spirituality The word itself says spirit, spirare. It's about breathing.
Yeah.
So everything is like breathing in and out, and it's like always dynamic. And for me, the most important moment when I was studying Steiner or Liebergut was, I think it's the word wesentlich. It means essential.
Essential. Yeah.
And I think for me, this is the most important aspect on my journey, is that I started to deeply experience the world as wesentlich,
Yeah.
as essential. And this is I think for me, this journey on discovery or reverence or joy is about recognizing that everything you meet or everything you use is in a way essential, and that this table is representing an essential table or an archetypal table, but this specific table has its specific qualities which makes it essential. It is.
Yeah. And also like a function.
Yeah, it has a function, and it has some kinds of essence, the being of a table.
Yeah.
And this is the being of the teacup, or the being of the tea inside of the teacup. So I think that is very important, a very important concept, which is also very dangerous, because when you say everything is like a being, or everything has an essence, you have to be able to breathe in and out of that thought, because if we're going to talk about what is evil, for me, evil needs to be breathing between the absolute evil and the relative evil. So it's like you have to see, yeah, it can be a being, but you can also breathe out, and then it becomes everything within yourself. So for me, I would like to talk about that if we're going to talk about evil, or we're going to talk about love, or we're going to talk about whatever subject, we need to switch between the absolute and the relative. So for me, we are, as a humanity, we are on a journey, and I have chosen, or something has chosen me, that I think we are developing freedom, love, and consciousness. And in this journey and in this conversation that we are having, we are always in two positions at the same time. There's something that knows and something that doesn't know. And I think this is the beauty of the development of freedom, is that in my mythology, in my story that I'm living, the God that I appreciate has given me enough isolation, has given me enough balance between knowing and not knowing, so that I can make choices. Mm-hmm. And this is for me the miracle of freedom, that even if we both experience many of the things that Rudolf Steiner said as true, you still can breathe with it, and you say, yeah, well, I'm not completely sure, because otherwise I will lose my freedom. Yeah. And this is, for me, is very important.
Yeah, I understand. And also, that's probably part of our journey as mankind and as an individual, that we are sort of born unfree, so to speak, and we develop freedom. And that is a path, and there are probably so many incarnations. You can't do that in an hour, develop your freedom, but it might be then also, well, I'm sure it will be over many earth lives, and in different situations, different times, once as a man, once as a woman, so that there's all these different aspects.
Yeah, what I like about this reincarnation hypothesis is that it gives you more time. I realize that there are religions that say there's a beginning and there's an end time, and it also gives you the feeling that you need to do it in one life, which is a very, very unrealistic pressure to become a fully developed human being. I mean, You have 80, 90 years, and there's so much to do that I would hope for us that the reincarnation is a valid concept, because it gives you more space to develop, and it gives you more breathing space. That's what I like.
And of course, if you would have only one life on Earth, I always feel at the end of your life, I'm actually a failure. There's so many things I couldn't do, I didn't see. Yeah, and I think, and of course, it gives you also more freedom then, if it's true. But for me personally, I think it's true, reincarnation, that you then know, well, I get more chances to continue and to improve.
Yeah,
and so that's a process.
Thank you. Yeah. So we come. For me, this is the basis of spirituality. That you say, the first thing I can do as a human being, as an adult human being, you can say, I choose for this hypothesis. I choose for this to be true for me, and maybe the truth chooses me. But it gives you the first act of freedom.
Yeah. Okay.
So I say, why do I choose? And I'm not sure if I choose, but maybe the concept has chosen me. I choose for a worldview where humans are developing freedom, love, and insight or wisdom. Because if you don't choose for that image or that ideal, you narrow yourself down to something which is only reductionist to materialism. And it will not challenge you that much to make the best of your life if there's no consequence. Mm-hmm. So I choose for the philosophy of choice.
Yeah. I see. But I think also, say if I'm wrong, but I hear you also say that in order to do that, also you need courage. Because you accept not everything I know, so I have to develop, I have to understand better. Again, it's a process, but it takes courage. Not everybody maybe has the courage to say, well, I don't know, I will exchange my concepts or my way of thinking and experiencing for something better if I have an enlargement of my worldview and my knowing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and it works both ways. If I have a dialogue with atheists or materialists, I can make the joke that I can easily switch to their worldview, and I could live with the possibility that there's nothing after death, but they find it very hard to step into my worldview. Yeah. So it's like breathing. It's like I don't want to be psychotic. I don't want to know for sure, but there are many hints that my life has been given or my mind has been given on angels or reincarnation memories or whatever. So I have a lot of hints that are pointing me in a certain direction of rhythm in reincarnations, or that things are really essential, but I'm willing to give it up. I feel it's true, but I'm willing to give it up because I don't want to live in some kind of psychotic dogma.
And also an abstract.
Yeah, no. So I can really breathe in and out of that absolute and relative truth.
Yeah, and then of course you also create space then for growth, because growth is only there if you're not sure, so you start searching.
Yeah. So I like that about humanity, that we try to find what is good, and every time we say, okay, that is it, it starts to become demonic.
Yeah.
And this
dogmatic, and then therefore also demonic.
And that's very. That's very endearing. I think that's the journey of renewal, that we have to rediscover what is good every day, and that makes life so exciting and like a wonderful journey of discovery.
Yeah, maybe you can say something the way I have understood or experienced it, that sometimes something new can develop if I so essentially, let's say destroy, but leave behind what was old.
Yeah.
So that also there's a process. And then now you say, this is blue, but you're willing to give up because you learn more to think. That's after a while you say, yeah, it's actually yellow, for instance. So that you, but there's also the idea of the phoenix, that out of something which dies or destruction or is burned, that something, therefore something new can be created.
Yeah. So now we're coming to this Christian, but it's image of the resurrection of Christ, which is an deep archetype of the renewal of nature, the renewal of birth, growth, death, and resurrection. So this is what you can experience yourself every day. You go to sleep, you die symbolically, you get back to life the next day, and you are renewed, refreshed, and you can. So this is a daily cycle, but you can also have that in a year. You can also have that in emotional cycles, and I think as humanity we have other cycles as well. So this is why I think this time, where this moment that we are both alive in this moment in history, I think many cycles are coming together now, and we can make a step as humanity.
So we could say what Steiner would say: we come close to a threshold. We have to go across a threshold. A threshold is also from one room to the next, or from that thing also is also a good image to see how mankind is on the threshold, so to speak.
And I think one of the things that I see with people who are awakening now is that we have a chance to see ourselves broader and deeper. So I think this time is just a time of unveiling. More and more people start to see through the present illusion that is presented to us, and that we present ourselves with the old system of economy and the old system of religion. And I'm not talking about religion as only Catholic religion, but neoliberalism or whatever kind of dogma, worldview. But I think it's really religion. I think we have been taught to believe in the necessity of growth. We have been taught to believe in the dogma of debt creation and very funny religion. And many more people are waking up to what is the power play, what have we been doing to the earth, what have we been doing to our own nature. And it's a wonderful tension field, because some people say, oh yeah, we need to become almost like robots, and other people say, no, we have to go back to our roots in nature. And this whole discussion on how can we sculpt, how can we shape our new society is going to be central for the next 20, 30 years. And I'm very grateful to be alive in this period.
Because I agree, because so much is happening. Also that you cannot oversee everything yet, but if you want to work hard for it, it helps to wake up, so to speak. While waking, to wake also up, and that's also why I would like to ask also your opinion about. You see that often things, if we follow this way of thinking, that actually, because that is then what we call evil, can bring light. I like the example, maybe I can say more about that, but what we know then in Christian concepts or Christian approach, Judas is always seen as the incarnation of evil,
the traitor,
and so. But the Christ says at the Last Supper that man who now dips his bread in the wine will betray me. And then he says to Judas, "Now go
and do your work.
Do your job." And then he goes. And therefore you could say the whole resurrection was only possible because the Christ was betrayed, or the Romans were told who was the Christ, or the Jesus Christ. And Can you give examples also, what you
Yeah,
think?
yeah. I think this is the essence of human development is that there are tendencies in history where rulers try to shape the consciousness of the population, and the population likes it or not, and those people in power, they get more one-sided. So what a system does is that it puts people in power who have less and less empathy.
Yeah.
And so you could say they develop one-sidedness, and they start thinking about humanity as objects, and they lose their compassion, and you could say on a relative scale they're just like us, and on an absolute scale something grabs them and they start living in an energy that is pretty one-sided.
Yeah, and also becomes sort of it's almost automatic by itself.
Yeah, yeah. So and this is, for me, this is the essence of being human, is that you have to realize that what you think becomes habits, and what habits becomes your character, and your character becomes your destiny.
Yeah, and also your prison.
Yeah. So, and this for me is this whole process of being human, is that you realize, okay, what gives me a sense of being alive? What gives me a sense of being on the right track? And can I listen to what's happening in my body, in my soul? And can I check my thoughts, and then talk with others, and then ask yourself, what is the essence of being human?
Yeah.
And for me, this is a search. This is not an answer.
That's a little bit for me also. So, what do you think about that? I will give you a little example. You see that that for 1600 years, in the Western tradition, in the Roman Catholic Church, the Bible was always written in Latin. Nobody could really read and write Latin. And then the clergy and the people who supported them, they told you what was in the Bible. And then the major breakthrough is that Martin Luther, the German church reformer, translates the Bible into German. And suddenly people can read and they say, oh, it's very different in the Bible than what the clergy always told us.
Yeah.
And then the nobility that support. Yeah. So they had created privileges. And I think maybe nowadays it could be similar. At that time, the trends that to make knowledge accessible to many, then there was people could say we have been fooled, so to speak. Yeah. And that ends up with in Europe in 30-year war. It's also a religious war where then finally the Protestants who woke up said, we don't want this. We want essentially freedom or knowledge and understanding. And now I think also what is important in our time, that we try to give as objective knowledge, and also see maybe where we are fooled, so to speak.
Yeah.
There's the word fake, also fake news, also net news. But I think I can see a certain parallelism with just the fact that knowledge was made available to many, to millions, that therefore you got a whole change. That's really so. And therefore, but you should say more about it if you see that, how we could reach that to be like a Martin Luther, and bring a huge transformation in our thinking and the culture and so on.
Yeah, I think you can say that the Reformation was also possible through a technological revolution. So the fact that it was no longer needed to have monks that wrote the Bible or copied the Bible, but you had the printing press. So and now if you move to our time, I think the next revolution that's happening now is the end of money. We had a church of bankers, and we had a church of money creation by the elite, And just like with the Bible, that some kind of new revelation made to the public is happening at the moment. There is, I think Henry Ford said, if people would know how money is created, we would have a revolution the next day.
Yeah.
So what's happening at the moment, I think, which is the next big technological revolution that will help develop the human mind, is that people start to discover that it's a trick that people create money and become rich and say, now I own this, now I own that, with fake money.
Yeah.
And what they do is they steal energy and time.
Yeah.
So if you work for something and somebody else prints money, you lose energy and time. And I think the biggest revolution of the coming 20 years or 30 years is the discovery of cryptocurrencies, and especially Bitcoin, which is a paradigm that says you don't need to create money with debt. You don't need to be indebted. You need to work for, you need to do proof of work, and then you can create, you can be rewarded with money. And this is a very new, stable way of thinking through which I see an alternative society arising where people will be more transparent about how the money flows, how their energy is divided, and how we can live with abundance if we realize that we stop giving our time away.
Yeah, and there's also the question is, what is money actually?
Yeah.
Because it's also interesting.
That's a good question.
It's also, and dus daarvoor also I agree with you. And of course, Rudolf Steiner has already also given concepts. It could be an answer nowadays. You call it threefold social order. But one of the things, and that's how, when I was a doctor in Amsterdam, we had a restaurant where we would also give cooking classes, so and lectures and so on, how to get a better nutrition. But all the people who worked there, they worked not according to how many hours you worked, but everybody would donate his labor to the group. And so all the people, like 18 people together, and they together made sure that all the financial needs, so to speak, were covered by the work together.
I think that's a very important concept, and I think that that is the future. I think we will be going to a possible future where you get a lot for free and you donate your work.
Yeah, and that's all part of developing your freedom.
Yeah.
To say, I decide for whom and for what I work. The quality also.
Yeah, and so it will be this is the big. They say money is the root of all evil, and I say, well, money is a story. It's about the theft of time, and this is about how do we use our time on earth, and how can we have conversations? How can we not run away by creating some kind of stress? We need to have money, because that's a dogma. We can say goodbye to that dogma.
And a trap also.
It's a trap. So I think in a way, our present economical dogma is a trap against human freedom.
Yeah.
And
against
think,
our development then.
Yeah. So
I would maybe say, I like to compare also money, but as a force. And I would like to say, for instance, electricity. With what can you do? Good things, electricity. You can make lights, you can do operation room, you need electricity, or fly an airplane or so. But they can also kill with electricity. Electrical chair, push on the button, nuclear bomb goes off. So, but we humans, we make it ethical, good or bad. So, but you can never say it's electricity's fault that I shoot a bomb at you. So that's what I say. So the man, we decide how a force, and this, with anything, also knowledge, do I use it in a good way or in a bad way?
Yeah, and again, we need to find out what is good, what is bad. It's the same strange paradox that we, at the same time, our heart knows what is good,
Yeah.
And every time it needs to be rediscovered. And at the same time, you know what's happening with a centralized power, that it's bad, but it's also the consequence of a luxurious laziness we all had. There were too many people profiting, me too, you too, from this bubble we created, and now we need to realize that the bubble is bursting, and
Already
we need
bursted,
is bursted, and we need to find a new answer to the question: what is it to be human?
Yeah.
So, and you could say, evil in that sense is a way that we get so one-sided that we lose our humanity.
Yeah, and use our focus or our goal, which is then essentially, I would say, develop freedom, and with that comes, with freedom comes also responsibility and morality.
Yeah, and I think, now we come to the essence of what anthroposophy means to me. For me, anthroposophy says everybody on earth has his or her own stage in which he or she is developing, and we need to have the earth as a schooling place where you can come back and you can learn to be a little more responsible, a little more aware. And I think that what's going on at the moment is that some more desperate brothers and sisters at the moment, they are thinking we should have less humans, we should have less, because they are so entrenched in their old way of thinking that they think there can never be a place for humanity with 9 billion people the way we are now. And that's true.
Yeah. And that's of course also the basis also from transhumanism, that we can fix here and there and then do some manipulation, and there's an artificial intelligence, some chips here and there, and so and then we fix it. And of course that is
that's an illusion.
That's the illusion.
Yeah, and it will cause a lot of damage. It will cause a lot of sick people and dying people. But I guess that's the price we need to pay to go to the next stage. I think this kind of conversations that we're having at the moment is an attempt to contain the damage. Yeah. Because we will go through this transformation either through enormous suffering or through lessons learned. But
I think probably it's both. And what I like also Albert Einstein said, if you don't make a mistake, you have never tried.
Yeah.
Because part of human existence is it's a process. We are on the way, but once in a while you make also a mistake. But then you should learn from that.
Yeah. So for me, evil is like this one-sidedness that is so a caricature of what humanity could be, that it awakens something in other people that say, no, that's not what I want. I don't want to be like that.
And one thing is more in the tradition also, but also in the Bible, but also many other spiritual traditions. It's all said that what is some evil that are beings who were also angels and archangels, and they were actually ordered, they were commanded to become evil, but in order to help mankind development. So if you have that also kind of concept that evil is also there for us to make us stronger, and with the seduction to say no to seduction, that is then is also evil also actually a friend of yours, but you must know it. That's what Rudolf Steiner like of anthroposophy. You must know the evil and can look it in the eyes, and then you can fight it.
And there's another aspect of evil is like, and I love the fact that in English you have the word life, L-I-V-E, and evil is E-V-I-L. It is this strangeness that evil many times is presenting the good, but on the wrong moment. Like if Klaus Schwab, who I feel is making many mistakes, and he's representing something of a central power that will take away freedom, which I think is very damaging to humanity. He says something that could be true in 200, 300 years. He says, you will own nothing and you will be happy. There are some pitfalls in that, because he doesn't say we will own nothing and we will be happy.
Yeah.
So he's making the mistake of being the elite that decides what is good for humanity. But at the same time, he gives a gift by being so one-sided that you can feel, whoa, that's not what I want.
Yeah.
But I think what he says is, in the future, we will not have that much possessions, because it will be easier to share.
Yeah.
It will be easier to have access.
I agree, but there will also be a choice of us. If we say we want to do it, we want to do the next. And
this is a search, because of course he is right in a way. He says you will own nothing, you will be happy. That is because for two reasons. One is the immense inflation we have allowed the bankers to create, because we liked the luxury. So the reason that we will own nothing is because everything has been taken away by the inflationary economy. So this is true, but it all went to a very small group who has everything. So this is something that is, you could say, is evil, because it doesn't have any breathing middle ground.
Yeah. And what I liked of Rudolf has helped me a lot. Rudolf Steiner has once said that evil is something which will come, which must come, which you now say, but too early. Yeah. And sometimes when I talk with parents from the Waldorf school, I say, child, also the development, certain things should be on the right time. Yeah. And I say, with a pair of scissors, when we all have scissors at home, happy we have a scissor, we can cut paper, whatever. But a 2-year-old, you won't give a scissors yet. It will very likely hurt itself. Yeah. And that evil is, you cannot say it's the scissor which is wrong. And it's only if it comes too early. Yeah. And therefore, so that has helped me a lot. To say that what you actually say, it will come in the future, but it comes too early, and maybe not in the way that helps us to grow. Because I must make that decision to say, I want to go maybe away from money, and I donate. And if everybody donates, then we donate to each other, like we also do in a conversation. I give and take, I give and take. So that's probably the next step in the future, how we should live together.
Yeah, so again, we're coming back to what is evil. Again, you need to realize that you can see it as an absolute. Then you say, okay, these people are almost possessed by evil. And on the other hand, you have to resolve that evil to relative energy, and then you recognize it in yourself, because you can only redeem evil if you recognize it in yourself. You cannot say, well, okay, I forgive you. You have to realize I am your brother, or you are my sister. You have to realize that somebody outside of yourself is representing an energy in an absolute form that you have to deal with yourself in a relative form.
That was like maybe the way I understood also the work of Johann Goethe. They worked with light and darkness. That you can say in absolute bright light, you can't see any color. No. In absolute darkness, you don't see color. No. But the interplay between light and darkness, the whole world of colors comes. And they say, I saw that also a metaphor for man. We are between light and darkness, and we are the in between, and a little bit once like this. But there's also an approach, and we are standing between light and darkness.
Yeah, beautiful.
And that was helpful for me to understand.
I love it. I also think that what humanity is doing, of course, we are in the yin-yang position, and this is light and darkness. Yeah. But what I like about the human development is that between that light and dark, there is a third force coming, which has this color spectrum, which has this sense of self. And I think the next stage of humanity will be for many people to have a balance between what is my own self and what is the community, and how can I develop my own responsibility, my own uniqueness in order to serve the community.
And I like the interplay.
Yeah, I love it.
Like
I love
a lemniscate or whatever.
And I see humanity looking for all kinds of answers. You see Africa, they develop much more vitality, much more the art of being alive and the art of being enjoying the moment. And in Africa, somebody said, you have clocks and we have time. So you could say, okay, I'm generalizing, but I think if you look at China at the moment, China has made this huge development, but they are in a crisis because the centralizing force of the Communist Central Party is starting to auto-destruct. And it's about how much freedom can we give the Chinese individual. I'll pick up where we were interrupted, and I have this wonderful new microphone. What I wanted to say is that I think that humanity is learning as an organism. So it's not only the individual, everybody's experimenting with like a sorcerer's apprentice. We have all this new technology. We have Google. We have many aspects of the internet.
Big tech, yeah.
Sorry?
Big tech. Yeah.
And it's so seductive to concentrate power through monopolies that you see all kinds of experiments by the Chinese Communist Party of social credit system, of killing a whole city just to use it as a political tool. So this is like the disrespect for the individual, and I think the balance for the next century will be how can we develop the individual in a way that he or she serves the community. Yeah. So it's both, and I think for me evil is either being too selfish and too quasi-individualistic because it's not real individualism, it's like egocentricity, and collectivism, which is suppressing the individual. So for me, I think the challenge for the next decades is how are we going to give space to human development in a way that serves the collective, and how can we use the expression of the true individuality and truth in a way that we can make the next step.
Yeah, and also, and that must be a breathing process, so to speak.
Yes.
So, I like this idea of the lemniscate.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, for me, and this is where the world development and the individual development come together, because what we try to do with Double Helix, with this map of the human soul, is to show the abundance of meaning, the abundance of beauty, the abundance of information that you can metamorphosize into truth. This is what we are discovering, that there's so much information that truth gets lost. Yeah. And this whole search for truth and this whole search for freedom and this whole search for love is on a next level. It's very beautiful, and the beauty is balanced by the ugliness. So there's a lot of destruction, there's a lot of stupidity. And at the same time, this dark force helps the light to get in, and this discussion or this dialogue between you and me is that we are searching together for what's happening and what's our duty, and how can we do our duty with a sense of awe or a sense of joy.
Plus, we can wake up also if there is an controversy or also, but for me also what I would like to add, what you say, I fully agree, but also morality. With freedom and with knowledge comes also responsibility, and of also morality, not only to my other human beings, but also to the animal world and the whole world as such. And you cannot say it's CO2 stupid.
No, that's also, too simple.
It is for the whole earth and what lives on it, so also the animals and also the bacteria and so. And that is, I would like to say, only add that it should be as inclusive as possible.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And this is why I think the biggest revolution at the moment is the transformation of our concept of money. And again, I think why I think Bitcoin is part of that future of liberty and the future of truth is that we are able to develop protocols where we say this is the amount of energy that is available, and we need to deal with this monetary energy in a defined way. You cannot print any more money because that's a way of stealing. So if we say we have our limits, and within that those limits is abundance, then we can go to the next step.
That's also maybe slowly on that we come to an end of our discussion, but I always like to ask the question also to myself, but others. Everybody lives in debt. States, so nations, Germany with how many trillions, and the United States, and so everybody's in debt. But then my question is, to whom?
Exactly. It is the same question that you could say for 2,000 years the Catholic Church has made a business model of guilt. You're guilty, you're guilty. And now the bankers have taken that concept and say, you have debt to me. You need to work for me. I print some money, and now the rest of your life you have to pay me back. And it's a way to capture energy and time.
To make people actually enslave them in a certain way.
So, and again, it is hard for people to be free. So
it's also scary.
It's scary. It's scary. So I think.
But one thing, the banks. It will say, banks is also actually people who also function as bankers in the bank. It's the bank by itself. It is the beings who are there in the bank, who then make decisions, do this, do that, and the printing money and so. Somebody must push the button for the printing machine.
And I'm not saying all bankers are bad people, because power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So we need to define a society where our basic premises are decentralized and are almost built into code. I saw a wonderful T-shirt with a coder. It didn't say "in God we trust," but it said "in code we trust." And I think what he means is that if we have a transparent set of rules, which we all agree that we should listen to those basic premises, that we can have a more just society. And it's happening already. If you have a global currency that is not corruptible, you will start seeing more truth. You will start seeing more justice, and you will see more the capacity to stay within our boundaries. So I see a lot of possibilities.
And consent. And consent.
So I think in this struggle with evil, we need to realize that we are all have that evil inside of us. It shows in our way. We tend to be dependent or addicted or lying or unhealthy. It's all human. It's all human. And life is pushing us towards the next step of having more self-discipline, dealing with the enormous amount of information and transforming that to wisdom, and dealing with the enormous possibilities and transforming that into freedom and responsibility, and with this possibility to have a dialogue and transform that into compassion and love. It's happening.
I would like maybe slowly close off our conversation, but I want to say that the way I understood anthroposophy and Rudolf Steiner and the concept of the double, there's also the double is also something
beautiful,
and that we also have to deal with it.
Yeah.
And you cannot say, I don't want to deal with the double.
No.
You have to deal with it, but also set it free.
Yeah, exactly. And the way you set it free is that you go into it and you feel its whole becoming. How were you born? What have you given me as a challenge? And I'm grateful for what you sacrificed.
Yeah. Plus, I created you also.
Yeah.
That's also.
Yeah.
So therefore, also, like that also we
beautiful,
finish with the evil. That I must know it. And as image, I can look in the eyes of the evil, and I know it, and then I can deal with it.
Thank you. And it's very universal. We are all traumatized in one way or another, and we are all trying to survive. And our tricks to survive create this double. Create this sense that can become evil because it is uncheckered hate, it's uncheckered sensitivity, low empathy,
or untruthfulness, or whatever.
Yeah, so we all know it, and we all know it. And the moment that you start working on yourself and you have this kind of dialogue that we try to have, we will redeem a part of our own double, shadow, whatever.
Yeah. Great, thank you. We thank each other for this conversation. Hopefully, it's people who watch. It's helpful to come to maybe more concepts or ideas, because that's the purpose of our whole work, working with people.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.